Ɩnternational Freethinkers. You're listening to the We Are Sober podcast.
Oof. Hello. I just get really excited every time we run that intro.
That's what
Awesome.
it is. Yeah. Hi. Hello,
Hi.
everyone in the chat. And
Welcome
Justin.
to the new year, to the 2022s. Welcome to the the anniversary of our trying to ruin America.
Again. Oh yeah, that was
Again.
today. God, I forgot about today's date. I really did.
Yeah, so
Dang.
thank you for supporting the union.
Your service was needed. No, God dang. Well, I mean, by all means, we haven't updated the intro and everything channel information just yet, but we are officially the We Are Secular podcast, not We Are Sober. The changes to come. Just bear with us. It's been a long week already. But yeah, Justin, let's go ahead and introduce our audience to our guest this evening, which I know you both are old friends.
I've
It's been a
known
while.
Yolanda for quite some time. Mostly back from interacting on Facebook with various forms of science activism, predominantly around anti-vaccine stuff and just a lot for many years. I don't do it nearly as much now. It's just so time consuming and all encompassing and exhausting.
I couldn't
So
remember
today-
what group we met in.
Oh, I don't know. Probably healthy skepticism or something like that.
Wow.
One of those. So today the topic is open label placebos. So that's going to be part of it. But I also wanted to talk specifically to our guest here because of her involvement with, she'll explain it better than me, the secular witchcraft and performing rituals as her form of open label placebo. And there's a lot that goes into it. So we'll start off with the open label placebos and some of the science and ideas behind that, and then move on to other topics afterwards. So if you want to introduce yourself and kind of give us an idea of what these are to you, and kind of how you practice that, and maybe some of the organizations that you're involved in that
Okay.
that go through
Well,
this.
Definitely, I'm an atheist, and my atheism doesn't include any room for any kind of supernatural belief at all. A lot of atheists, especially in the atheist witchcraft world, do allow room for belief in the supernatural. God of the Gaps comes into play a lot for a lot of people in this group, I guess. Atheist witchcraft is kind of a niche in the witchcraft world. It tends to be fairly dominated by Wicca and just overall, I'm trying to be kind. There's a lot of woo. There's a lot of ridiculousness that kind of goes into it. And so we've kind of created these niche societies and groups where we can kind of come together and bounce ideas off of each other in a way that we know that we're not going to get in a Christian equivalent thoughts and prayers from something that we don't need. And probably the biggest movement, there's the atheopaganism group, and it tends to be fairly it tends to be pretty secular. There's no or little room allowed for supernatural belief in that. And then I'm part of the SAS, which is like the skeptical and atheist and secular science witches. I think that's the order that it goes in. But there's a Reddit group and Facebook and Discords, and we had our first WitchCon this year, which was all online, where we could just kind of bounce ideas off of each other, and talk about open label placebo. What does it mean to us? And then the people that had the belief in supernatural, how do they, claim their atheism while still believing in things like ghosts or, homeopathy, that sort of stuff. So, but anyway, so if any of the other atheist witches are watching this, yes, they should know, the ones that I know, that I don't have any room for any kind of supernatural, but some people tend to get kind of, it's a touchy subject, and there's a big split, and it's hard not to step on each other's toes sometimes. So as far as I'm aware, there's no real distinction between the two groups, and so we all kind of just collide, just from our atheism, as in, no deities, or deities are used as like a Jungian archetype type deal. I don't really like that, because there's issues with that psychology in and of itself, but a lot of people will use that. But generally, as a whole, witchcraft uses the open label placebo effect, because we know that what we're using is placebo. We know that it doesn't do anything. It can't make us, if we're sick, it doesn't make you feel better. If you have mental illness, it won't fix that. It won't help your depression. But essentially, knowing these things that we do, it can still make us feel better and elevate our mood, and maybe put us in a better mind space to get a goal or a job done or completed. It can be as simple as a lot of people wake up in the morning and they drink their tea or coffee, and they stir the spoon one way so many times, because they think that, it's moving forward, right? If you move it clockwork, right? And it's essentially, like I said, that is a very popular ritual in witchcraft. And it doesn't do anything, but it makes you feel good. It makes you feel you have some sort of control over a situation that you wouldn't otherwise.
Is it safe? I'm going to kind of, because I'm going to lose this question if I don't ask. Is it kind of like how individuals have this type of kind of superstitious practice? Like, for typically you hear those common ones like football games, where you have to wear your team socks that you don't wash, or you have to do this particular chant so they can get this touchdown, or
it's a lot like that, except it's a lot like that, except for we know that it doesn't actually affect the outcome. Just the same. Whereas I don't know about like the football players and stuff. Maybe they do think that it affects the outcome, but we know that it doesn't. But it helps you feel like you have some sort of control,
right?
Even though you don't.
There's definitely some football fans where if they didn't wear their lucky socks and their team lost, they would 100% blame it on those socks.
Well, that's witchcraft.
I know people like that. Now, to preface this, because we're gonna go into, I know this doesn't specifically go into ingesting, or maybe it does, I'm not sure, I'm just asking questions. Right. This doesn't specifically go into ingesting like any type of pills or medication or any type of like so I just want to preface that, so that, because I know there's a pharmacist out there watching. Hey,
oh yeah, no.
Yeah.
That is so incredibly frowned upon, at least in the circles that I'm in now. Once you leave like the secular and atheist and skepticism group, it gets insane. It gets bizarre. I mean, and it gets dangerous. And but I don't. Yeah, this is not any kind of a replacement for any kind of medical care, not even for mental health care. We kind of joke a lot in the groups that it's what is it, spicy psychology or whatever, or
spicy
CBT
psychology.
light, or CBT light. And but really it's not a replacement, because we're not medical professionals. At least most of us aren't. There are a few in there who are, but we can't, it doesn't matter how much I do my own research and stuff. I'm not a medical professional, and there's that confirmation bias. So even if I read 100 different studies to try to learn this, I'm only going to see the things that I want to see in it, right? And those would be the things that I apply to myself. And I wouldn't really be able to tell if I'm hurting myself or helping myself. So this is something that you have to continually check your bias, because it really truly can, you can slip down. It's a slippery slope. So
that makes sense.
So let's kind of bring it back to the beginning with what is a placebo? What is the difference between what is a placebo, and what's the difference between that and a open label placebo, and kind of like why do we think that it works, or why would we even go down this route to begin with as a avenue of making ourselves feel better, or it's not alternative healing. I think that has a very negative connotation, especially in the science advocacy world of alternative medicine, and holistic medicine and stuff. But it's, like you're saying, if you're stirring coffee, or you're setting up your room a certain way, or wearing certain types of clothes for certain activities, and it makes you feel good, but like, I know that there's some studies out there that actually show this effect happening, and even in the medical world. So from your understanding, like, what is a placebo, and how does that, and like, what are we doing here with open label placebos?
So one of the studies that I see about is something that, obviously it doesn't work. It doesn't do anything, especially whenever we think about like a placebo pill, but a placebo can also be really anything. In my specific situation, it's an idea, but, or something that doesn't affect physical, it doesn't have a physical change on you. So a traditional placebo is, you don't know what you're getting, right? Like whenever we're talking about studies, you think you might be getting medicine. And we also know that placebos can work in a psychological manner, even though they might not be actually be helping to actually cure anything. A open label placebo is where it's nothing. If it's a pill, that it doesn't do anything. There was a study done where they had two different groups that they were testing the open placebo on, and they actually burned the participants with a hot plate, and then they provided a cream. And one group was the traditional placebo group, right? So, and it was a cream, and it didn't do anything. It's just a cream. And then the other group, before they gave them the cream, they described the open placebo effect to them and let them know, like for like 15 minutes, they had a flat out discussion, and they said, listen, this won't do anything. It won't heal your burn. It doesn't take away the pain, but it might help you prepare yourself to handle the pain better. So they had that discussion with that group, and then they compared, they had everybody write down what their pain results were. And the open label placebo was significantly less on a pain threshold than the traditional closed placebo group. And so it was just the fact that knowing even like what a placebo is and how it works can help you better prepare psychologically for something that's going to happen.
And you would think it would have that opposite effect, right? Like, I know it's not going to do anything for me, so that's it. You leave it alone, and you think that there would not be the result that you pretty much demonstrated. But obviously it did, versus the people that had no knowledge of that open placebo, but they received that placebo regardless.
So it's, like I said, there's a few studies that have similar results where after, telling somebody, like this isn't going to work, but this, can affect your mood, it can help, like I said, it helps you prepare for what's going to happen and stuff, that it just kind of puts us in a better state of mind or a better frame of mind to handle things. And that's kind of like the basics of like what, open label placebo and how it applies to like how I use it, on a mostly, daily basis.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I was reading another study earlier and I have it pulled up. It was about IBS and quality of life, and they did a double-blind study where they gave half of the people a placebo with a bottle that said placebo on it, like they knew it was a placebo, and then they
Mhm.
gave the other half a placebo, and they didn't put the label on it, and it said like peppermint or something like that, and the people with the label of placebo reported better quality of life scores, later on. And this is, I mean, and we understand that this is just kind of like treating some of the symptoms in terms of like perceived pain and
Mm.
basically a lot of our perceptions of our symptoms and our experiences with whatever the illness is. But yeah, it's definitely interesting and totally unexpected in my view of what we would think we would
Same.
see when doing this.
Now that I think about it, I wonder, just basing that off of like medical studies that utilize the placebo effect and not telling the um control group. It's often the control group, if I recall correctly. The control group that they're getting the placebo, and then the other tested group that they are well, they're both told they're getting some form of medication to help them, but one is getting placebo versus the other. I wonder how those results of those type of studies would change if those control groups were told about them receiving a placebo versus another group that's actually getting a medication. Would it demonstrate same kind of results as far as effectiveness of treatment? Who knows? I wonder if that kind of result would correlate with what we already have findings of now. But anyway, that's another rabbit hole. More focused on what you do or your
Well,
group and everything. Yeah, go ahead.
one thing I want to bring up
Yeah.
before we get into that is there is something like positive thinking and optimistic attitude and this approaching problems in a better mood type thing that's found in cognitive behavioral therapy and in some therapies. And there is some mystical thinking and woo surrounding this that has been around for a long time, called manifestation, where there's this idea that if you think about something, or you put enough energy and focus and positivity into it, that you can actually manifest it in reality.
Hmm.
And this is something that like really plagues these types of like pseudo religious circles, um, of somehow what what we can think about, or what is happening inside our heads, can alter physical reality. And you know and just recognizing that that is something that people believe, and it's something that's really popular in these types of groups, I think. And
It is.
it's really important to avoid that, and make sure that you're not falling into these traps of, oh well, I did this and this good thing happened, therefore I somehow had an effect on it.
Hmm.
So it's very easy to see how somebody can start thinking that way after they've been doing it like every single day.
It's toxic positivity is essentially what that is. If you, and it's really, really bad in Wiccan groups because they believe in the, what you put out comes back threefold, or whatever, that they follow. So it haunts it. Wicca haunts all sections of modern day witchcraft, and it's completely misunderstood. And the groups I'm in don't allow Wiccans in, or Christians,
Can,
but
can you
we'll allow just about
explain
anybody else.
can you explain what Wicca or Wiccans are versus witches or witchcraft?
Okay,
As
so
far as I'm concerned, like it's all the same. I have no
it's
idea.
not. So Wicca is a religion, and
Hmm.
so its followers are Wiccans, and it was created by Gardner in the 40s, I think, like the 40s and 50s. And
Hmm.
it's just an incredibly a really non-inclusive. I'm trying to think of how to put it. It's witchcraft, but it kind of takes from all forms of paganism, or what we think we know about paganism, because there's not a lot of real records. So basically, Gardner traveled the world and kind of took bits and pieces of what he liked from different religions and then created Wicca.
It's not just
And
paganism, it's occultism, right? So it's just
Yes.
a very wide collection of
Yes.
supernatural and mystical
And it's
beliefs.
heavily, I don't know that you can separate Wicca from the religion itself, because it does require belief in a god and goddess, and sometimes gods and goddesses, and so it just, there's lots of different sects within it, just like Christianity. So Wiccans, some see themselves as witches and some do not claim that title. Essentially, witchcraft is exactly just that. It's a craft. Anybody can be a witch. There's Christian witches. There are Buddhist witches. I have a Korean shaman friend who is a witch, and who's also an atheist. So it gets real interesting. And so it's and she does exorcisms. She's North Korean, so it's very but she's an atheist, and it's anyways. There's a lot of different things that kind of funnel into that can be its whole. It could be its whole show, because it gets pretty diverse and fairly deep. But witchcraft is literally just a craft. It's ritual. And that does not have to include anything spiritual. It doesn't have to include a deity. It doesn't even have to include Jungian archetypes if you don't want it to, or it can. Essentially, it's whatever you decide is witchcraft is what it is. Like I said, it could be something, like I said, as simple as stirring your coffee a certain way every day. It can be, maybe you take a ritual bath and you put the bath salts in, and then whenever you drain it, you imagine your worries going down the drain with it. You know what I mean? And it's just supposed to be a way like to just kind of drop that stress. I like showers, and I tend to just imagine that, everything is just kind of washing away. Whenever I get upset, shower is my go-to, and I just feel everything just like going down the drain, just rinsing off me all my troubles, and it just puts me in a better state of mind. It kind of resets my mood. And I think that's what's started.
No, that's good. So you are considered Wiccan?
No, I'm not religious. Wicca is religion.
I'm sorry. Okay. I did. No. I've confused myself. Sorry. You're considered. Yeah. Shut up. You're considered.
I'm just a witch.
She's a very pale witch.
Very pale. I am very pale.
Atheist witch. Got it.
Yes. Yeah. I'm not any sort of sect or religious at all. Like I said, and even inside, though, like I said, inside of the atheist witchcraft group, there are people who believe in ghosts or Reiki. Gets all into that. Chakras. That's all fairly predominant, even inside an atheist section.
So if these groups are so full of people with supernatural and superstitious beliefs, even among the atheist groups, like why? And there doesn't, from your explanation, there doesn't seem to be like any core tenets or core binding beliefs or rituals within witchcraft. Why witchcraft? Why do that? Why call it that? Why organize around this word that has all these potentially negative and harmful, or at least unwanted connotations?
Aesthetic. I mean, I think a lot of people get drawn in, firstly, because of that it's taboo. And, and it's the outside, it's the other, right? And I think that at first draws a lot of people in, but then there's also like the aesthetic. Maybe people just like the way that witchy things look, right? Kind of dark, kind of brooding, lots of nature or nature worship tends to be.
Yeah, but that's not the same as like taking a shower and stirring a spoon, right? This is a very specific set of practices and rituals and crafts and activities, right? So I mean, either it's like anything or it's like this specific type of thing, right?
So it's anything. So it does tend to be kind of anything like that, because in witchcraft, you're supposed to create your own path. Yeah, covens exist, but they tend to be pretty culty, just as bad as any other group of religious people who tend to get together, and very cliquish. But witchcraft is a path, right? They always talk about the path. You create your own path, and if that's what you're meaning.
Yeah. I'm just wondering.
But really, I think what it is like we want to connect with other people who like to do similar things. Whether a craft can be a literal craft, you could be making a spell jar or a sigil, and maybe you want more ideas on what to do to make you feel better. So a sigil is just a written spell, and maybe and usually people make it really dramatic, as just part of letting something go. So maybe you've got something that's bothering you, and so you can write it down either as the words themselves or as a symbol, but you make this whole dramatic thing around it. Maybe you light some candles, you burn some incense, you dim the lights, you have certain music playing or whatever, you write down what's bothering you, and then you burn it.
It's a whole big thing.
It's a whole big thing. And so
it's like putting on a play,
people,
right?
It is.
Like
it is
making a scene.
Right. But then it feels good. Like it's like a physical representation of whatever's bothering you. It's like burning your ex-boyfriend's clothes. You know what I mean? It's just kind of like that release.
No.
But you know what I mean? It's like you get rid of your ex's stuff, you make a big deal out of it and stuff, but it's a physical, release of something that's bothering you. It makes you feel like you have some sort of a control that you lack otherwise. And so a lot of people will join these groups that I'm in and be like, hey, my ex cheated on me. Help me find a spell, right? A popular one is, right? And so like, help me find a spell, to get back. We know it doesn't do anything. You can't affect somebody else just by, like Justin was talking about manifesting. You can't manifest things. That's not how that works.
A voodoo doll is a thing.
They are a thing.
Asking for a friend. Okay, cool.
They are a thing inside the atheist group and outside that. But again, if you feel better, it doesn't affect the other person. Like maybe, you get some pleasure poking a doll that represents somebody that you don't like, and it improves your mood because you can imagine bad things happening to that person.
Yeah.
And then if something bad happens to that person, see, that's where we get the slippery slope. So like, let's say you're wishing something bad to happen on this person and that does happen. It's a slippery slope because if you don't check yourself, maybe you'll start to think, oh, did I do that? What else can I do? And it kind of opens up a doorway that can cause, to me, a belief in the supernatural and stuff. And it gets real kind of gross from there.
I mean, I'll be fine with just knowing that me stabbing 100 times at the voodoo doll's dick is gonna, actually chop it off. But I digress.
That's a very popular thing is, somebody in one of the groups that I'm in created a spell just for fun, just real goofy. And it's the pickle dick. And so it's a way to, a pickle is phallic shaped, right? And so you can take a pickle and you put like rusty nails and stuff in it or staple in it. And obviously it's symbolic of whatever you're not feeling towards anymore.
You give it a tetanus shot?
Yeah.
Cruel.
And so they made this as a joke and they even made like a little like meme about it. And then it was funny though, it started getting shared outside of our atheist group. And real witchcraft, like I say real, but that believe in the superstition, picked it up and now it's a real thing. And they really believe that will do something like that. It can cause like infertility and stuff, all kinds of stuff. Like you won't be able to get stick hard anymore. But that's part of the danger of it too, is like these people take some people take things so seriously. And it started off as a joke in the group I'm in, and it just went off and now you can Google it and find it. So
that is legit.
So how do you get involved with something like that? Like how do you get started? How do you go from, because I know you're from a very, very Christian like area, right? And how do
Yes.
you go from like being a Christian to like, I don't believe that anymore. Let's go make some voodoo dolls.
So it's really strange. You'd be amazed at the number of people that leave fundamental Christianity and then go to actually Wicca, because they're similar in a lot of ways as far as their structure and their levels of superiority. They have different levels that you can attain and stuff. So they're more church-like, and that appeals to, whenever a lot of people, whenever they leave a fundamentalist society or group, they go looking for something to replace that sense of community. And that's actually why a lot of people are so reluctant to leave churches, I think, because they tend to compartmentalize, their skeptical thinking with their religious thinking. And they're like, well, I'll just keep these two things apart and not ever let them run into each other. But whenever they do finally, make the leap and leave the religion, then they've lost not just the religion itself, but the sense of community that they had. And so I think that people tend to kind of group together and come together to find solace in each other and try to recreate that sense of community.
Okay.
But
So, sorry, I derailed.
But for
you.
me, like, 'cause I've been an atheist my whole life. So I was raised, my dad was an atheist, and my mom was a Wiccan. And so there was always a little bit of that there. But I was always pretty steadfastly just atheist, and but always interested in that stuff. And for me, I was more interested in a lot of the aesthetic, the dark, the goth, all of that stuff that kind of tends to commingle those groups. And one day I Googled atheist witchcraft, and there was a Reddit group, and it helped me just kind of come to terms that, you can enjoy, the fun things, the things that make you feel better, and the crafts that you make and you do, and the rituals that you set for yourself. And it doesn't have to conflict. You don't have to compartmentalize that away from, your skeptical and, reasonable side. And there's some great YouTubers. There's even a few great books about atheist witchcraft. And like there's a group called or a book called Godless Paganism. And what it is, it's basically just interviews with a whole bunch of different people, and how they practice their witchcraft and paganism, without religion, or without deities, I should say. And we also, there's a YouTuber that I really like, that I kind of got me into actually searching for like the more specific groups, I guess you could say. And that was Sedna Wu. And she is a, atheist, and she came from a very fundamentalist Christian community. And she talks a lot about how, she left Christianity, and then how she eventually went over into witchcraft and stuff. And then what it was like for her, because she's a very involved person in a lot of science groups, and how she had to basically come out to them. You know what I mean? And it took a long time for her to even do that. So.
Yeah. Oh, that's rough. Okay. Well, not to stray too much, because let's kind of focus on what you do as a group, as far as what ritual type things you do, as far as with the open label placebo. Like, how is all of that done? Is this, and I'm probably answering my own question here, is this just mutually exclusive to the group itself? And do you have open invitation for others? Do you
it's open.
Conferences, things like that?
So
when
they
you're
are
dancing around the forest, is like just anybody welcome in the
half
circle?
naked, saying chants and seances. Okay.
COVID. So
and it's cold as fuck.
Right. It's so cold here. It's -10 today. But they are actually having a conference in Las Vegas in a few months. We did our first online WitchCon, which, as far as I know, is the first of its kind a few months ago, and it was open invitation. It was a charge to attend, and they had different speakers and on different subjects, and it was kind of separated into, there's a whole panel on open placebo. There was a panel on spirituality. Anyways, it was very well organized for a first time. I felt there's definitely some room for improvements and stuff. And it was available online to purchase to watch afterwards as well. So that is something that they are trying to organize as a annual event. The Facebook groups are open to most, like I said, the groups that I've been in specifically exclude Christians and Wiccans, because they, I guess, just historically cause more problems than solve. And they're not, and I don't know if people just come in to like troll the group, but we tend to get a lot of even like the Wiccans and the more spiritual people that come in that still identify as witches because they're Christian witches, and they're, they tend to sometimes be easily offended. And we're kind of tough-skinned, and we like to make fun of ourselves, and we like to make fun of other things. We like to make fun of astrology, and we like to make fun of essential oils and MLMs, and we like to share studies. And whenever you poke at somebody's pet woo, it tends to cause issues.
Yeah.
And so but otherwise they are open groups, and it has been a lot of fun to kind of connect with like-minded people. And a lot of the people, like I said, we've got doctors and geologists and, all kinds of people that identify as atheist, which is with or without spirituality berries.
Mm-hmm. This is actually go for it.
I just want to interject with something. Do people get upset when groups like that are charging for entry for their conferences and stuff? Because I've seen that with some conferences, they're, it costs too much, or you shouldn't be charging, blah blah blah. But one thing I just want to say, in general, is that the church and Christianity has had such a monopoly on donations and income for hundreds and maybe over 1,000 years, and it's super important to kind of support these other groups financially, whether they're conferences or just gatherings or new groups, or whatever it may be. That we need to try to, if we're not fundraising and stuff like that, but at least pay, expect to pay our fair share for being involved in these groups, because they need it to keep growing and to keep active. We have a big issue with there's just not being a community centers or the secular or whatever version of churches are, or there's a few national organizations, but there's not a lot of local ones. So it's just it takes a lot of money to run these things. So whenever ones do pop up, it's important to do what we can to support them.
I agree. And so, and kind of saying that, so the way that we kind of went around that, because we understand that not everybody has the money to spend. So for basically VIP access, which was to the live chats, and you could ask questions and, ask the panelists questions. And then you got some extra goodies that would be mailed to you, like stickers and stuff. I think it was just $45 per person, and it was a 3-day event. But you could buy the recorded sessions, all of the recorded sessions, and then you could read our discords after the fact. Was $15, and which I really don't think is a bad deal. And everything was also transcribed, and so our people were paid. The panelists were paid. The person who put the videos together was paid. The person who transcribed everything was paid. So that money actually did go to something, and then what was left over is in reserve for next year for hopefully a bigger, better event. So.
Good.
Nice.
Good. Sorry, what were you going to say, Jenna? Yeah, I just wanted
no.
Yeah.
No, that was good. I'm glad. No, and generally I was going to save this more once we get more towards the end of the show, and Jur had a question. Are you on social media besides Facebook? She hates Facebook. But I did already kind of plug your website. if you want to kind of talk a little bit about that, because you are a candle maker. Her fucking candles are fucking awesome. Okay.
They are.
Like,
There's
I thought
one
my
burning
house was
behind
going to
you.
burn down on fire. When you know your house is going to burn down on fire from a candle, that's legit. I'm just kidding. But no, by all means, tell us a little bit about your personal business.
All right. Well, my personal business right there is villagewitchcandleco.com. And I make candles. And so I originally started crafting is good for my mental stability and any kind of craft, making anything artistic. And it was suggested to me by a friend to make candles as an outlet. And I don't know how or why she was like, do this. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll make a candle. That'll be easy. It was not easy. My first candles sucked. And the first candles didn't burn. Like the wick would just go out. My second set of candles was like a flamethrower, and the glass broke because it got too hot. And then I realized I needed to.
You could have made more money by making videos of this and selling and going viral.
Oh, yeah. And people
know
would still
what?
buy that shit even though if it
They
exploded.
probably would. They would probably send it to someone they don't like. But so there's a lot of science that goes into candle making, and so
That's how you manifest your destiny.
It is. And so I started reading, and I did a lot of reading about the science behind candles. And there's so many different kinds of waxes. And inside candle making, there's a lot of woo. You get a lot of people who, oh, paraffin is toxic for you. Soy is the way to go, or, you know, palm wax or beeswax. And there's a lot of misinformation inside of candle making.
Wow.
And so trying to find what the studies actually say about what happens whenever a candle burns, and what does it release, and does the type of wax and the type of fragrance you use actually, is there a difference? And there's only really been one good study ever done, and the answer is no. The differences between the different types of waxes is negligible. And so, you know, you hear people post, you know, that, oh, it's all natural, you know, you need to go all natural. Well, there's nothing natural about a candle. Nothing. It's not meant to be a natural thing. You know, candles were initially used for light, or heat, you know, and then we started throwing fragrance in it. And then it becomes an aesthetic. It's a decor item. And like anything, if you're exposed to something too long, you can have issues. Like I wear a respirator mask whenever I make my candles, because I'm being exposed to large amounts of concentrated fragrance oil, and it's not good for your lungs. Anything that you expose yourself to like that is not good for you. It doesn't matter how natural you think that it is, it can still be bad for you. But my candles, I use a great paraffin wax. I use wood wicks. So my candles, I use the highest percentage wax, that basically fragrance oil to wax load that there can be, so they're really fragrant. And I also put mica powder in them and dye, not in all of them, but in most of them. And so I have to have a really good, strong wick that can burn through that. So anything you add to wax makes the wick have to work harder. And so like if you add dye, well, now that's an extra thing for the wick to burn through. If you add mica, an extra thing. Fragrance oil, same thing. It's just extra stuff. So I use the wood wicks because that way it can really burn through everything I've added into it and cast that scent out. So you get it can fill a small, you know, it can fill a room, you know, and you don't have to light a whole bunch of candles to do that. So
that, and you know, and Andrew, you're right. I didn't know this. I never had a woodwick. Like, basically, you have made me light candles now. Justin gifted me 2 of your candles for Christmas. One I burned for my room, and then I got robbed by my sister of the other one. So that's why I ordered more. And please order her fucking candles. They're fucking great. And they smell awesome. My room is like, oh, it's heavenly. I mean, I don't mean that religiously, but you know, whatever. to use a phrase. But yeah, I did not know, because I never, like, prior to that, candles was always like essentially decor, like, because that's how I was raised. My parents didn't do that crap. So I legit had a candle in here that I recently burnt to the bare now, but it's been sitting in my room for like 3 years because of decor. And since I ran out of your candle, I had to use that in the meantime. But I didn't know woodwick ones crackled like that. So it freaked me out. And I shot a video of it and sent it to Justin. I'm like, is it supposed to do this? I mean, it's cool, but I'm scared.
I love it. Yeah, I do use the crackling woodwicks. And the sound is caused by the different variations in the wood grain. It's fruit wood. If anybody's interested in that, I've got a whole section on my I have a whole section on my website about woodwicks. And because if you haven't used a woodwick before, the initial light is different. How it burns is different. The way it sounds is different. And so, and I wouldn't say that they're more complicated than like a regular cotton wick. It's just different. And once you get it, you get it. You know, it's just something you got to do. So, yeah. But I also talk like about the ecological impact of woodwicks and stuff on my, like I said, I've got like a little blog thing. And so anyways, I kind of go into all that. So.
No, that's awesome. I'll post your website in the chat again. So by all means, check out her information. I know I wasn't privy to the education behind it. I was just sent candles and I lit them like, you're supposed to. Justin didn't tell me about, the science behind it all. So I was freaking out for no reason. But they are awesome.
Fire to the wood. Put the fire to the wood and then you walk away fast.
But don't leave it unattended. Don't burn it unattended. And you're really not supposed to burn it for more than 4 hours at a time either. Not that anybody ever reads the warning on the bottom. All candles sold have a warning on the bottom. And just the reason for that. Now, the glasses that I use are rated for up to 850 degrees. But whenever you're looking at extreme temperature change, which can happen if you burn glass for too long, it can cause, especially if there's like microscopic cracks and stuff in the glass, you're at risk of that glass breaking, which can cause a fire. And so 4 hours seems to be the recommended by like every candle association that exists, to not burn it longer than that. And this, so I burn mine for longer than that. We call it abuse burning because we know that customers are just going to light it and then they're going to leave for the day, so it happens. And so with every batch of candles that I do like just a regular burn. I burn it every 4 hours and I treat it perfectly like, what's recommended. And then I also do an abuse burn. I just light it and let it go. Yes. Yeah. To force something bad to happen. And I've never broken a glass yet. Never. But it can happen because, like I said, I wouldn't know if there's like a flaw in the glass that I can't perceive and what would happen, if somebody were to do that. So if you pick up any candle at any store and look at the bottom, there's a little thing that says, don't leave around kids and pets, don't burn for more than 4 hours, and keep your wicks trimmed. So.
Well, I definitely read the label. I never have candles lit when I'm not in my room or not at home. So that's one thing I did. But I definitely had it burning for more than 4 hours. Anyway, thank you for that.
Besides,
everybody knows.
Yeah.
Besides pretending that every day is Halloween, what are some of the rituals that you do?
I make things, a lot of things. So part of my self-care, I guess, and the way that my rituals are is I like to make spell jars. And I know that sounds incredibly corny and stuff, but essentially I do like to use different herbs and crystals, and, pretty rocks and stuff that I find to make tiny little jars that mean something. So we all know that these things don't have a literal meaning, right? We assign whatever, intention we want to whatever it is. But right. But historically, these things have like different crystals and stuff have come to represent different things. And so like quartz crystal is used a lot of times for focusing intent or thought or amplifying something. So you could put quartz crystal in. So like if I'm wanting to, maybe I'm feeling down on myself, I could use anything I have laying around, and I could put some quartz crystals in it, and I always make it real pretty. It has to be aesthetic for me. It's an aesthetic thing. I could put some quartz crystal in and maybe some rosemary, which rosemary has a lot of love and self-love type things, rose petals. Like for me, I've kept every flower that my partner has ever given me. And I keep all of these roses that he's given me, and they're dried petals, and I'll put some of those in with it. And maybe some lavender, just things that are representative of, to me, love, right? Whenever I think of love, and I'll usually put red wax over it, and I'll write, love yourself on it, or some sort of an intention. And, I'll either put it on the outside or roll it up in paper, put it inside. And it's just something like, that whenever I'm feeling down, or, whatever it is, well, now I've got basically a different version of a stick-it note to love yourself, right? It's just a prettier stick-it note. It's a pretty little jar with lots of pinks and reds and the way I feel written in it or on it. And so whenever I see that, because I have a little, I wouldn't call it an altar because I don't have all the goofy stuff on it, but I have a little area with all my witchy stuff on it. And so I have these little bottles that I make. And so whenever I see him, then I'm reminded, it's like, you know what? I told myself I would, feel better about myself, right? Or that I'm worthy of, feeling good, and that I'm worthy of the things that come my way. And, just, like I said, it's just a reminder, essentially. It's a physical reminder, in the same way that a stick-it note that you put on your mirror that says love yourself, or, look up. It's the exact same, to me, it's the exact same thing. Like I said, I don't believe that they do anything. Again, it's a placebo. You can get the same effect from gravel that you pick up out of your driveway, and you're like, well, this gravel means abundance to me. Yeah, all of this gravel that's scattered all over my yard reminds me of, things multiplying. And so I'm going to take this gravel and I'm going to put it where I can see it, and that's what it means. And every time I look at it, I'm going to think about that.
My toddler eats gravel.
That's just...
So it could represent food if you're a 2-year-old.
There you go. Is your toddler also picky? Like, it eats the gravel over good food? Because that's how my kids were.
He eats the gravel and grass and snow.
Dog food.
And dog food. Yeah.
Whatever else is on the floor.
Yeah. Moving on.
I wanted to say, I think just how you were explaining, like, oh, there's a sticky note, or like a painting or an image where people get like one of those, like, oh, be beautiful type things that you buy at stores type stuff.
Yes.
I wonder if there's just this extra sentimental value, extra meaning, personal, true meaning when you create something versus purchasing a saying where you're like, yeah, I like that. I'm gonna put that in my office. So, but you, like you said, you save every rose that your partner has given you, and you essentially create this jar of quartz and everything else you want to represent that manifest feeling as a reminder for yourself. I wonder if that is a bit more of I'm going to get a little wooey here, a bit more of a spiritual energy that you're personally putting into something, and then making that a higher representation of something.
So, and I think that art is that way a lot. Like, it's always weird to use the word spiritual, because whenever, like, I like to paint, and, I could go buy a painting, but there's something different whenever you make the painting yourself, and you do it because it is a piece of you, and you're thinking about whatever, your intent is the entire time that you're making it or you're painting it. So I also like to make things out of clay, and, working with my hands, I think, just period, and thinking, try to put myself in a better thought process. And like I said, it's not going to cure your depression or anything, but it can put you in a better mood to deal with things. And it's helpful to me, and maybe, everybody's mileage may vary, as far as like, how does your craft really affect you? you'll see a lot of witches who get burnt out, but I think it's because they're trying too hard instead of doing what comes naturally. I am naturally a crafty person. I've always been, somewhat artistic. I'd like to make things. And so just kind of skewing that towards an aesthetic that I really enjoy, that's kind of dark and centers around a lot of natural type things, appeals to me anyways. And so it makes it easier for me to do rather than trying to do something that I wouldn't normally be doing anyway.
So if, some people like make blankets and some people build sheds, some people do witchy shit.
What do you do,
Yes.
Justin?
Me? I eat popcorn.
So, and now, my candles, like you'll see, they're not, there's a whole thing about candles and witchcraft and candle magic, which is colors, and it gets pretty wooey pretty quick. And I don't do that. I've been asked to, but I don't think that my intentions being put into a candle is the same thing as if somebody else were to just make it for themselves. I think you have to put your own, I don't know. I just don't know that I could buy something that somebody else made and they're like, well, I was thinking about this when I did it and it had the same effect. Is if I
like, cool.
So one of the people watching is Kelly. He's a geologist and owns a rock shop here in Michigan. And he's very, very skeptical and really concerned about people who buy into like crystal woo and stuff like that.
Oh, they do too.
Yeah, and one of the things, he's a big advocate, and he has a sign in his shop basically guaranteeing that his rocks and crystals will do nothing magical for you, and if they do, then come get your money back. So with that, the question is, like, how do you feel about selling candles and products in general to people who believe that they have some like mystical or magical powers, so they're going to do something for them? Like, how do you feel about your candles, the things that you've created, being involved in like some magic or some spell or some ritual where they believe that there's actually something magical about it? And would you intentionally sell it to people who were doing it, using it for that purpose?
See, I don't really feel super great about that myself. So that's why I don't sell intention candles or anything, because I think that there's something, I've got some amount of ethics, I guess, because there's a huge market for it. I mean, a massive market for candles and witchcraft stuff. I mean, you can just get on Etsy and just see, Etsy has kind of been taken over by witchcraft and witchy things, promising all kinds of crazy stuff. And but ethically, I don't think that it's right to say that anything will do. Like, my candle's not going to do anything besides make your room smell good and maybe make you feel good because you like the way it looks, like aesthetically. If you burn my candle and you're like, every time I burn it, I have a sense of clarity, I don't know what to say. I mean, that's something that you've psychologically done to yourself. It's nothing that I've done to it, because nothing I do to it will affect anything. Now, I have made, I've made spell jars for my friends, and put, we do like we call it Galentine's Day, where we all get together, me and my friends, and just kind of hang out. And I've made like little self-love jars and a list of, things that they can say to themselves whenever, they're feeling down or whatever. But it doesn't do, like, I can explain to them and I can say that, this is representative of this and this is representative of this, but nothing that I've done is special in any way. I've essentially assembled ingredients together, and whatever you make of it, you make of it. But it gets real weird real quick whenever you're looking into the ethics of, like, especially crystals and stuff. Where are they sourced? How are they sourced? That sort of stuff, because there is a lot of concerns with that. And like I said, anybody who sells something and says that this does X, besides just being like a rock that you look at and it's pretty and it was formed in XYZ manner, you know, that's the truth of it, right? This is how it was made. This is, you know, what it is. But if you're saying it does XYZ, no, it doesn't. It's just there and it looks pretty because it's a rock. You know, you can say that it's symbolic of these things because, you know, things have symbols. They just do. You know, there tends to be, you know, the color red is symbolic for love and lust. You know, green tends to be symbolic of growth, abundance.
Purple is royalty.
Purple is royalty. So like I said, there are things that are symbolic of things, but it's a real fast slippery slope whenever people, you know, they're like, every time I wear this, whatever, you know, I don't even know what this blue stone is. It's blue and sparkly and pretty, and my friend gave it to me. So I don't even know what it is. Every time I wear this, I find $1 on the street, you know, or something good happens to me. And then, you know, it's a slippery slope into that that supernatural thinking and superstition. You know, there was a big thing, and I'm sure the geologist guy on at Moldavite. Oh my gosh, the witchcraft groups blew up over it, and it caused the price of Moldavite to go up really high. And it's symbolic of change. It's a stone that's symbolic of change, and anyways, it can be really bad change. And then suddenly, anytime something bad happened, people were blaming it on this stone, and the groups were getting flooded. And part of it is witch talk. So, you know, TikTok. I'm not on TikTok, but people talk about it all the time. And there's a witch talk version, and it's solely responsible for all kinds of trends in witchcraft. And the Moldavite thing was one of them. And so then, like I said, people were blaming all of their bad things happening on this poor rock that did nothing but exist. And it was a real big debacle. Oh, see, and I see where he says that.
Wow.
Yeah, see, and it's expensive. It is so pricey. So, and like I said, and the thing is, like, most of the time, you don't know what you're getting. Somebody could tell me this thing had gold in it. I would have no idea. You know, it's pretty and it's blue.
So what we need to do is get some real Moldavite, rub it on everyone's face, and then burn their skin with your candles. And that's how we cure COVID.
This is my candle cabinet right here.
There you go. That's how we cure COVID. Dang,
I didn't know that about a huge black market for fake Moldavite. Well, there you go.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
Well, there you go.
Really,
like I said, it's
fake glass.
Well, when you're a Kelly, maybe it's easy. If you're me,
This is real Kelly. I don't know the difference.
Like, I don't even know where to begin. You just find a rock and paint it green.
Pretty. You know what? That happens a lot. People will get sold rocks that are painted. So it's absolutely something that happens, and there's a lot of real gullible people.
Well, when my ethics go out the window, and I need a lot of money,
so paint some rocks.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, I've learned a lot, definitely, between the difference between a witch and a Wiccan, and I see the association to how I don't see any harm. And now that this all general discussion has been explained, there's no essential real harm, especially if it's for your own personal self, to create a physical manifestation of a feeling, or put your stresses, or think that you're pouring your stresses into a physical creation of yours as a reminder to breathe, as a reminder to, you know,
it's meditation, you know. I mean, there is science that supports doing things like that, and that it can be good for your mental health. And a lot of people have turned to like witchcraft, you know, in the last few years, like with COVID, as a way to I'm not going to say treat their mental illness, though I think some people do that, but as a way to cope with it, because we all know how healthcare is in the United States. and it's really hard to get mental health care, and especially if you're secular, and to try to, that's a whole other conversation. To try to find therapy that's not religiously centered, and so like these communities have really grown since COVID has started, and oh gosh, where was I going with that? Anyways, it's like CBT light is like, spicy psychology. It's just a way it's fun and it can make you feel good, even if it's not curing anything. And even though you probably still really need some medical help. So,
yeah. Well,
Right.
yeah.
I
Justin?
was say, yeah, no, that was a good talk. I don't know that I get it. I don't know that there's like I get the pretty colors and the rituals and
Just
it's fun
believe.
and the group. I just don't know that the association is worth it. But I mean, obviously for a lot of people it is.
I think a lot of it too is, people do tend to associate witchcraft with Wicca, and which is kind of a problem, because Wicca is a religion and witchcraft is just a craft. It's secular in and of itself, and it has existed for far longer than Wicca has, which, is from the 40s and 50s. And, for instance, Christian witchcraft was really big, was very popular for a long time until, Puritans and all that stuff happened. And, and then people started to get ostracized. But there's a lot of history there. But in and of itself, witchcraft is secular, and it's what you make of it. And then to me, it should be inherently free from superstition as well, but that's me and my skeptical side being, I just can't with the Reiki. I just can't with the essential oils. So with my candles, I don't use essential oils in them. Essential oils are not tested for candle use. I mean, they're not tested for really any use, but they are not tested for candle use, and that's a huge safety thing. So candles made with essential oils can burst into flames. It may be bad for you to breathe. We just really don't know. They haven't ever been tested for it. So that's something else to kind of be mindful of whenever you're buying candles, especially from independent candle makers. So you may see like on like some of the bigger, I'm not going to drop any bigger names, but some of the big companies that sell bath and body products will say like infused with essential oils on it. And that is literally just a marketing thing. It means that they may have one drop of an essential oil in there. That's all that means. That's all it has to say.
Homeopathic
that's what
of
that
them.
means. Yeah. So,
well.
Yeah. So, and I don't like anything that supports any kind of MLM anyway. So.
Oh, that's just fabulous. Well, then, you know what? I will just buy from you, and I'm happy with that because
I've got a whole new line coming out. So.
Oh, is it the winter one? Because I saw some of the little collection ones have like this unique thing on top of the candle, and I was like,
snowflake?
yeah.
That's my winter line. So I'll have a line for each season. And they're just going to be seasonally inspired scents, and I'll probably leave them up year round because it's just what I'll do. But I'm also going to be doing like a new candle a month. I want to do like a January candle and a February candle. And it's going to come with jewelry. So, and they're going to be in new containers and stuff. So I'm actually testing those now. I sent Justin a picture. He's already seen it. While I was making
Where's
them.
mine?
Right.
Are you? Did you not forward me that information, bro?
You're not part of our witch club. You gotta perform the secret rituals to get in.
That's right. And I'm also making melts that I'm testing right now. I'll have some bleeding heart melts up soon. So they go on a wax melter, and so they'll be white hearts, and then whenever you stick them on there, they'll turn red and bleed out. So
what? That is legit. A bleeding
So
heart.
I've got some new stuff coming. So, but it takes lots of testing, and I have to document everything, so that way, in case somebody does something real stupid, I'm covered. But
well, good for you for actually doing the hard labor
Something.
work. Yes, for doing something, but actually doing your research and knowing what to do and how to make them. And I love them. I won't say fucking because they're non-fucking. I'm just excited. Okay, that's just me excited. I can't wait for mine to come in the mail. I ordered 3. I'm gonna order some more too, and prevent my sister from robbing me.
well, you ordered one of my favorite ones, so
Ooh, now I'm even more excited. But I thank you for sharing your knowledge of the group that you are a part of. I'm super glad that Justin even has a friend like this. Justin, I know you're so cool, bro.
I know. It's cool people.
Cool people.
No,
bro.
this is something that we see pop up occasionally, and it kind of gets like dismissed out of hand as like, oh, that's just another form of woo and nonsense, and you're just holding on to religion, and that's a slippery slope back into some other superstitious thinking, or you just don't want to let go of your bad beliefs and reasoning, or you're just looking for some cool group to be part of or whatever. So it's kind of good to get like an actual conversation about it and not be involved in some big dog pile.
Yeah, and I've said this often before. Not all atheists are, and Kelly actually said this in chat. Not all atheists are skeptics, and not all atheists are cut from the same cloth. We, obviously, you attest with yourself with the group that you're in to do the type of personal feelings and things with self-care. Yeah, I'll just say that self-care, and that's essentially it. We all have our ways and means of doing self-care. I think and understand how legit, I'll say that legit it is for you to add the personal items to make it into a physical manifestation of self-care. I know Justin, that's never going to be his thing. He'll eat popcorn. That's cool. But it like
maybe
Justin
you should take a
said,
bath, roses.
Yeah,
Some salts in there.
while
See how you
eating
feel.
popcorn.
While eating popcorn. Add it to your popcorn.
I just gotta cleanse these bad plans. Wash them down the drain.
But like he was saying, it's good to have this kind of conversation where a lot of this we see in like Discord servers and channels and things like that, and having the opportunity to actually personally speak with someone that doesn't hold a faith but has these unique practices that doesn't have to be
doesn't have to be spiritual. It doesn't have to be
doesn't have to be boring. Science is the only answer. Look up at the stars if you want some spirituality.
Everybody feels awe when they look at the stars. They're awesome.
Anyway, but we'll wrap up here. If you have a moment, maybe we'll pop in the Discord for a little while. I think you recently just joined it, and so anyone out there want to join us for a little more talk or conversation, or even ask Yolanda some questions if you have some, then please, by all means, and of course, shop at her online store, villagewitchcandleco.com. You can join us in the Discord server link if you haven't already joined us, done so. Tweet us, share our content and information, support us on the channel as growing. That's nice. For future episodes, I think next week I'm going to see if Oz or Mikey or Eddie, any of y'all are listening, Cynthia, any of y'all for a hip hop show next week. So I'll be DMing y'all next week for our hip hop part 3. Enter part 3. And then of course, our parenting series, we'll still keep that in discussions because we had our last episode 2 weeks ago in December. So, and just bringing on more interesting people to have these, conversations and just chill. But Yolanda, of course, if you ever want to come back, by all means, you are welcome to, just bug Justin. Any final words?
I don't. I think in the Discord, I'll go ahead and I'll join the Discord, and I can link some of the groups and associations that I'm with if anybody is interested in joining. Like I said, they aren't specific to being, like I said, my atheism doesn't have room for superstition. That's not the case in these groups. There's only a handful of us, I would say. Well, there's probably a couple dozen of us. that are more like me. So just be prepared, I guess. But I'll drop the links. Like I said, they're pretty welcoming, and you'll see we're great at memes and making fun of woo and all that.
I'm just gonna say that anyone that says we're great at memes is probably not great at memes.
We are so good at memes.
Put
so good
that out there.
He's such a hater.
I'm just saying.
All right.
I'm telling you.
Well, thank you again for joining us. See you guys in the Discord if you happen to be there. Until then, we'll see you next week.
Bye.